Yesterday I mentioned some of the movies and series of movies that have been coming out lately, and one of my favorites of those over the past 25 years has been the Toy Story movies. Now, I know that sounds kind of juvenile, and maybe some of you out there are too cool for Pixar, but they really do write some of the best stories that are being produced today. And I like Toy Story in particular because there's a theme that weaves its way through all the Toy Story movies. It runs continually through all of the movies, and it's really actually quite countercultural. It's a theme that really runs against some of the things that our culture holds most dear, which is surprising in a secular movie. And we see it in all the movies, but it comes out best in a Toy Story Christmas special that was published several years back, or produced several years back, called Toy Story Time Forgot. So this one takes place after Toy Story 3 with the characters of Bonnie's toys. So Bonnie takes Trixie, Rex, Woody, Buzz, and a few other toys over to a friend's house in order to play a couple of days after Christmas. And it's a friend who obviously is one of those kids that gets everything they want for Christmas, more toys than they could ever need. So she and her friend get distracted playing a video game. So the other toys decide that they're going to look around the playroom, and they get captured by a group of dinosaur toys called Battlesaurs. So think Spartans, but as dinosaurs. And these toys don't know that they're actually toys. They think that they're really dinosaur warriors, and they think that surrendering to anyone is contrary to their honor, and the only reason to live is for their own freedom. One character in particular, named Reptilis Maximus, says to Trixie, "The glory of battle is everything to us. Our survival, our legacy." And so eventually Woody and Buzz get forced to fight in a kind of gladiatorial ring against these dinosaurs, these battlesaurs. So Trixie runs off to try to get help from Bonnie. She has the idea that if she can get them to stop playing the video game, they'll come into the playroom. All the toys will have to freeze, because that's what they do in the movies, and that will save Buzz and Woody from getting destroyed. So she runs into the game room to try to stop the video game by turning off the power switch that the TV and the video game console are hooked up to. And Reptilis chases her, and he cuts her off right in front of the power strip. And she says to him, "Reptilis, your world is bigger than you know. Let me show you what you really are." "I am a battlesaur," he says. "You can be so much more, and you know it, Reptilis. It's your kid who chooses what you're going to be. You could be a dinosaur, a baby reindeer, or something you'd never even think of. It's about being there for your kid. It's about surrender," Reptilis says. And finally seeing what she has been trying to tell him the whole time. And in a very symbolic moment of surrender, he turns off the power strip with his mace and falls backward into the hands of his kid, who's coming to try to figure out what's wrong with the power. And then that kid and Bonnie go into the playroom, and they play with Reptilis and all the other toys, saving Woody and Buzz, of course. And there's this moment at the end where Reptilis and Trixie are laying beside each other, and Reptilis turns his head to Trixie just ever so slightly and says, "That was glorious." Because he's finally beginning to realize that true freedom, at least for a toy, is being there for your kid. And that's actually a message that's pretty countercultural. It's the idea that one can be created to serve someone else, and that is where true freedom, true joy is found. And that's what we actually see in this first part of Exodus as well. You see, this story starts out really good. It starts out with the Israelites prospering in Egypt and becoming so great that they could potentially take over the country if they had wanted to. In fact, that's why this Pharaoh who raises up, who didn't know Joseph, tries to enslave them. He is worried that they're going to take over the entire nation. So he enslaves them, and he forces them into slave labor. And there's this verse 14 in chapter 1, that shows us this. Although in the English translations of it, we use different words to try to give some variety to the reading. But what it actually says is this: "He made their lives bitter through hard service in mortar and brick, and in all kinds of service in the field. And in all their service, they were ruthlessly made to serve as slaves." Yet when God redeems them, he doesn't set them free and then release them into the wilderness all by themselves to go do whatever they want on their own. No, as 7 times in chapters 4 to 10, Moses tells Pharaoh to release the people so that they can go serve and worship God. True freedom isn't found in being freed from all masters, including God. True freedom is found in being freed from all other masters for God. True freedom is found from being freed from Pharaoh to be able to serve God. That's the same for us, youth. That's the same for all of us. So much of our culture wants us to believe that true freedom is found in finding and doing what we want, being in charge of our lives. Yet the Bible reminds us that true freedom, again, is not being freed from all masters, including God, but being freed from slavery to all other masters so that we can surrender to God himself and find what we were truly made to do. That's because the only master that will not enslave us and destroy us is God himself. All other masters will enslave us. If you live for grades, your grades will never be good enough for you, and you will constantly be bitterly serving that God. If you live to be the good kid, you will never be good enough, and you will constantly live to serve that reputation. You will never be able to say, finally, I've done enough, I'm the good kid. Yet Jesus rescues us from slavery, from all other masters, and brings us into the family of God, where he has already done everything that is necessary for us to be free, for us to be accepted. So we don't have to perform for God to smile down on us like a loving master. All we have to do is surrender because of how he sees us in Christ. And then we give ourselves over to him to be used how he sees fit, just like Reptilis learned about his kid. True freedom is not freedom from all other masters, including God, but it's freedom from all other masters for God. And we're going to see that, and we see that here in the beginning, and we'll see that throughout the story of Exodus. So you guys think about that. I'll see you again tomorrow.